you're just training and training, and you can't seem to overcome something or get any faster. And that's just all part of the process too. I mean, the big thing about what the martial arts could give you mentally is what you're just talking about, is dealing with that disappointment, but still grinding through, dealing with, like, that is what fighting is. Everybody thinks that fighting is the technique. And obviously you have to have very good technique, but really fighting's dealing with disappointment and not having it mentally pull you out of the process, dealing with pain, dealing with fatigue, dealing with being uncomfortable. All of these things are what the martial arts should give you, because defending yourself is going to happen very rarely. It really is. Like, unless you're just going out and looking for trouble, and then you're probably going to get shot. You're actually using your skills very rarely, once, twice in your life, maybe, if you're, if you're in kind of a party place, so to speak. But those skills of overcoming disappointment, of being relentless, of, not accomplishing your goals, but getting right back on it, that happens all the time, every day. So if you're looking at what value martial arts can give you, yeah, it's a little escapism because it's cool and you get to go do cool stuff about, grappling. And when by escapism, I mean, that's all you can think about, right? When you're grappling somebody, is what they're trying to do to you. So you get out of the real world for a little bit on that. But the lessons that stuff gives you, I think, is super important, of dealing, being tenacious, of having that warrior mindset in everyday life. So the value of martial arts isn't just in the ability to choke somebody out or defend yourself or whatever. The real value that you use every day is your problem solving abilities, is your ability to stay uncomfortable for a while and not complain about it, to take disappointment and still overcome and get your goal done. Those are the things I think that maybe are overlooked in today's kind of assessment of what martial arts can give you.
There's something I'd love to ask you about. Obviously we're talking here about the benefits of martial arts and how it's a tremendous vehicle for personal self-improvement and enrichment in your life. And there's a lot of people who get involved in martial arts that go through that transformation that you're describing. They come in, much easily flustered than they become as they build mental toughness over time. Obviously physical transformations. You see people lose tons of weight. You see people get in shape and build the confidence that martial arts gives you. You have an interesting perspective because you've worked with some of the most elite fighters in the world. Are there any guys that ever came through your door that became pretty recognizable, that in the beginning you were kind of like, I don't know if this guy's going to quite have, he's not going to quite have the chops to do this? Is there any athletes that have surprised you in their development?
No, not usually. I mean, not that I'm a prognosticator or anything, but usually I can tell pretty well. I've had fighters where I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know how we're going to win this fight. And they do. Clay Guida was the king of that. Clay Guida would come in and do well in sparring and stuff, but you would do, pretty well. But you get caught here and there. And then when he stepped up to compete, he was like a whole other animal. It was like a guy that just ascended to a different level. It's very rare that I see that. The pressure actually brings out the best in him. So Clay was definitely one of those guys where I'd be like a little stressed before the fight. I'm like, okay, I hope we can do well. And then he would just come out and beat these guys that were so good and amazing. And yeah, it's so every once in a while I'm wrong. Usually I can tell, if they've got the talent. What happens outside the cage is what derails most of them, honestly. Those kind of talented people, if they can't handle their life, which is very common for fighters, you can't get it together. You can't get it together. And I always will keep trying to help them get it together, but sometimes they just can't. So a lot of times their ability to handle stress and life outside of the cage is much more detrimental to the talented one's careers than what happens inside of it. I'm sorry.